So one of our cerebral followers of the channel recently thanked us for the Chris Nyland podcast, but he brought up somebody I thought I did a podcast on before, but maybe just slipped my mind. Boys, when he was involved in the Battle of Quebec, after being a hometown hero of sorts with the Frankton Express of the AHL, he was a feared enforcer. Was never a goon, but he could fight and he could hit. He can play the forward lines, the backcourt. Tremendous player. And at 6'1", 195, he skated like he was 7 feet tall, 400 pounds. Of course, we have to talk about the great Gord Donnelly. Now, drafted 62nd overall by the Blues in the 81 entry draft. He first came to major prominence playing for Notre Dame of the Quebec AA League in 78. Eventually had a strong junior career in the Q. Played with Laval in 79. 1 goal, 14 assists for 15 points, 79 minutes and penalties. Now, in 1980, split time between Laval and Chicoutimi, 111 minutes and penalties on 21 points. But 81, he's enforcer role with Sherbrooke. Good playmaker, a good protector of the top players there. 15 goals, 23 assists for 38 points. Now, according to a lot of people, he was the toughest player in that era of the Q. He led the league in playoff minutes in 1980 with 35 and 106 with Sherbrooke in 81. Now, he was eligible for the 1980 draft but was not selected. So it was quite an accomplishment to move up. He was Laval's first-round pick in the 1978 QMJHL midget draft. That's how highly he was regarded. Now, he debuted in the NHL October 16, 83 against Washington. Now, he wore several jerseys through the years, 28 and 34 for Quebec, 22 and 34 for Winnipeg, 34 for Buffalo, and 43 for Dallas. Now, he retired in 2000 after a long career, also played in the European leagues for a while. But it was well known to be part of what they call the second wave of the Battle of Quebec. The 84 series against Montreal, it was pretty heavy. Now, he is one of the few players in NHL history to have 2,000 minutes and penalties. He played 554 games, 69 points on 28 goals and 41 helpers. So technically close to 4 minutes per game penalty minutes. Played 26 playoff games for Quebec, most notably 86 and 92, 2 assists. Now, he led Quebec in penalty minutes in 88 with 301. He was Winnipeg's penalty minutes leader with 228 in 89 and 265 in 91. He was also an amateur scout for a while prior to the 2003 season and remained with Chicago in that capacity until the end of the 2004 season. Now, his on-ice exploits were noteworthy, and we're going to go through a few of them here. He was fined $500 by the NHL for kicking Kelly Buchberger's chin as the two fell to the ice during an April 12th game, 1990, during Winnipeg's first-round playoff series at Edmonton. Donnelly claimed he had simply lost his balance, but Edmonton GM Glenn Sather said the kick was deliberate. No penalty was called on the play, but Sather's whiny protest led to the fine. He also set a Winnipeg single-season record since broken for penalty minutes by a defenseman with 265 and 91. He set the Buffalo single-season record since broken for penalty minutes by a right wing with 305 and 92. He also missed part of the 95 season with a rough injury, bone chips in his right elbow, an injury diagnosed prior to the start of Dallas's lockout shorted season in January 95. Now, why Donnelly stood out for a lot of people, me included, sometimes he played on defense, sometimes he played mostly on right wing. He was a defenseman throughout his minor hockey, junior, and minor league pro career, but he shifted from defense to right wing with Quebec prior to the 88 season so that he could play more of an enforcer role, and he became one of the NHL's most feared fighters. He remained a right wing until the 90 season when he was switched back to defense. He shifted back to right wing upon joining Buffalo during the 92 campaign, and then played both right wing and defense for Buffalo in 93. He ended his NHL career as a defenseman with Dallas in 94 and 95. So comparisons, Willi Plett, Rick Chartraw, kind of a taller Ty Domi. But his suspension legacy is his legacy because some of the most unique incidents in the great 1980s enforcer decades. He sat out 10 games during the 88 season due to 2 5-game suspensions and then received a third 10-game suspension that kept him out of the end of the season's final 4 games and the first 6 games of the 89 campaign. The first of Donnelly's 3 suspensions came as a result of his kneeing Willi Plett in the head during a fight in Quebec's October 29-87 game at Boston. Donnelly was given a 5-minute match penalty for attempt to injure, although the Nordiques protested that he was fighting in self-defense after Plett, who was a tough nut, had speared and headbutted him. They also said Donnelly's kneeing had been accidental, caused by Donnelly slipping on the ice as the 2 players lost their balance. Now, there was some controversy. The Quebec media believed him, but the Boston media believed Plett. Video replay showed that the kneeing was no accident, and after hearing on the matter, NHL Vice President Brian O'Neill suspended Donnelly on November 5th, 87. He was not allowed to return to action until Quebec's November 18, 87 game in Edmonton. A few months later, he was suspended for another 5 games and 500 by the NHL for fighting John Kordic prior to the start of the Quebec's February 23rd, 88 game versus Montreal. The big problem here is they fought even before the puck dropped. The feud with Kordic had dated back 3 days in Quebec's February 88 game in Montreal, when Donnelly fought Kordic and as soon as the puck was dropped. When they lined up for the opening faceoff on February 23rd, they again didn't even wait for the puck to drop. Donnelly and Kordic were ejected and fined $100, while both squads received $25,000 fines. 2 days later, the NHL held a hearing for Donnelly and Quebec coach Ronald Lapointe. At the hearing, O'Neill suspended Donnelly for 5 games and fined Lapointe $1,000. Montreal's Kordic and coach Jean Parent were given the same punishment at a later hearing with O'Neill. Donnelly was not allowed to return to action until Quebec's March 6, 88 game versus the Islanders. Of course, Donnelly, hard guy to hold down, just 3 weeks after his return, he got into trouble once more for clubbing. Like I said, I saw that play, clubbing the very unheralded Jim Johnson with his stick during Quebec's March 27-80 game versus Pittsburgh. This time, the NHL gave Donnelly a 10-game suspension, keeping out of the balance of the 88 season and the first 6 games of the following campaign. Donnelly did not return to regular season action until Quebec's October 88 game at Philadelphia, and I saw that contest, and Donnelly was on the warpath again that night. Now, post-draft, he played with Sherbrooke, Salt Lake in the CHL, Frankton of the AHL, where he became a hometown hero, we'll get that in a second, Kalamazoo of the IHL, Houston, Chicago of the IHL, and Villach in Austria. Now, he won the Austrian Championship in 99 with Villach, and he also coached. He was named Concoria's AC prior to the 2000 season and remained there until the end of 2003. Now, he was also, get this, traded for a coach. St. Louis eventually sent Donnelly and Claude Julien to Quebec, the future coach, of course, as compensation for the signing of Jacques Demers, the former WHA superstar coach who was with the Blues at the time. Now, Demers, who was coaching the Nordiques AHL affiliate in Frankton, of course with Donnelly in the mix, had been under contract to the Quebec organization when he began negotiating with St. Louis. Before St. Louis began talking to Demers, it worked out a deal with Quebec in which the Nordiques would take Julien as a good faith measure for letting St. Louis talk to Demers, and also receive Donnelly in the event that St. Louis signed Demers to a contract. And of course, Demers signed that contract. Now, Donnelly's stats are quite impressive because you're talking about an enforcer, or like what they call a heavy edge player, playing literally 2 decades. Now, the native of Montreal was exactly what the teams that he played with needed. Now, after he was drafted, he played 1 more year with Sherbrooke and also skated with them in the Memorial Cup that year. Now, that year with Sherbrooke, 8 goals, 41 assists for 49 points, 240 minutes in penalties, 106 minutes in penalties like we talked about in the postseason. So in 82 games, he had 346 minutes and 14 minutes in penalties in the Memorial Cup. 83's first pro season in CHL, he had 222 minutes in penalties with the Salt Lake Golden Eagles with 15 points. 84, he split time between the Nordiques and in the Express. 68 games total, 0-5-5 with Quebec, 2-3-5 with Frankton. 146 minutes in penalties, but the beauty which made him a favorite ache in fateful was the 43 minutes he had in 7 playoff games that year for the Express. 85 again split time between the Nordiques, 22 games with the Nordiques, majority season with Frankton, 134 minutes in penalties, 6 points, and 25 penalty minutes in 6 postseason contests. 86 scored his first goal in the NHL, 2 goals, 2 assists in 36 games, 85 minutes in penalties, and of course back with the Express for most of the season, 103 minutes in penalties, 3 goals, 5 assists for 38 points and 33 minutes in penalties in 5 playoff contests. 87 full time with the Nordiques, 143 minutes in penalties, 2 assists in 38 games. 88 301 minutes in penalties, and 87 campaign, 53 minutes in penalties in 13 games. That was a tough goal for him that year. 88 301 minutes in penalties on 7 points, 4 goals, 63 assists, 63 games. Quebec and Winnipeg split time that year. Probably his best statistical season. 10 goals, 10 assists, 20 points in 73 games. 274 minutes in penalties. Jets in 90, again, good stats. 3 goals, 3 assists for 6 points. 220 minutes in penalties. 91, 265 minutes in penalties with the Jets again. 3 goals, 4 assists for 7 points. Winnipeg split between Buffalo and Winnipeg that year. 316 minutes in penalties in 71 games, 5 points, including 2 goals, and that was his last NHL playoff appearance. 93, 221 minutes in penalties, 3 goals, 8 assists for 11 points. 94, he split time between Buffalo and Dallas. 99 minutes in penalties in less than 25 games. 25 games. Now, as it went on, he found himself back in the minors in 95, playing with Kalamazoo, 4 points in 7 games, 16 games that year with Dallas with 1 goal. Now, IHL was expanding that year strongly. He found a home in the IHL, and this is where the numbers went up, ladies and gentlemen. 96, 333 minutes in penalties with Houston. 97, he split time between Houston and Chicago. 169 minutes in penalties. Now, eventually, again, went to the Austrian League from 98 to 2000. And again, the penalty minutes totals were quite strong. Now, his 2,069 minutes in penalties allow him to be part of a unique list. He's one of only a few players with more than 2,000 minutes in penalties. Now, the idea is not to say a unique list, but when you're looking at the great enforcers of all time, right now he is top 50. If you're looking at the top 50 enforcers, in only 12 seasons, in 554 games, 2,069 minutes in penalties. Now, the only comparison for this, for me, is Dave Schultz for totals and minutes for the amount of games played. Amazing. And also go Shane Charlotte. But what I liked about Gord Donnelly, what a lot of fans did, was just the intensity he brought. And the fact was, he wasn't unaccepted by the Quebecois Nordique fans. They loved him. He was from Montreal. He could speak French as well. But he was seen as what he called, after the Montreal-Quebec rivalry kind of died down a little bit, 85 and 85 before. After 84, it kind of rebuilt, like what they called the Naslund style versus the Nordique style. And Nordiques had a lot of skill back then. And Donnelly, no matter what the players were, he would protect them. This was after, of course, the Dale Hunter incident in 82 and 84. But Donnelly, like I said, when he came on the ice, you knew he was going to do something. He was going to hit you. He was going to protect the key players. And, protecting Howard Chuck in Winnipeg, tremendous. But everywhere where he went, he was a fan favorite. And in Frankton, he loved him because he was an outreach player. He was kind to the fans, kind to the kids, always would sign an autograph, and he has my big respect. So again, thanks for the requests. Requests are always appreciated here and always highly considered. I'm sorry I never did something on Gord before, but I know a lot of people don't remember his time in Frankton because he was a New Brunswick sensation, but I do. And like I said, that rivalry between the Nordiques and the Canadians were strong in the AHL as well, and especially the Buffalo. But the 3 toughest teams at the time in that division, Buffalo, Montreal, in Quebec. It's not a surprise. It's a surprise to me. He never played with Montreal, is what I'm saying. But it maybe burned all these bridges. I would like to see him play with the Montreal Canadiens for like one season. And they were considering bringing him in, but that was just a rumor that the Gazette had started. Like Gord Donnelly was going to arrive to protect Turgeon or the other key players at the time. But my God, ladies and gentlemen, I miss him in the league because every time he took the ice, I knew something was going to happen because he would not go out there to hurt anybody, but if you fucked around with these players, he was going to take care of it. So that's the life and legend of Gord Donnelly. If you like what we're doing here, and don't forget there's YouTube of Gord Donnelly and all these stars of the 80s if you want to do research. Just don't stay with my channel. Do some video research on some of these. And these fights were tremendous. Big left hand, this guy. Had a strong two hands, but a good left hand. Funny he never became a boxer. But these battles with Kordic, it's kind of sad because by the time 88 came around, Kordic was fading and Donnelly was kind of rising in the ranks. And, one was on the way up and one was on the way down. But in a fight, I would think Kordic against Donnelly would be even because two strong boys. Kordic, West strong, as we say, Western Canada strong, and, good Montreal boy like Donnelly. Thanks for listening. Bye.